The following program is brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization.
This is Straight Up with Toby Martini. I am Toby Martini. On this show, we talk about a few different things. What it's like to be an entrepreneur, how do you be in business today? Sometimes the psychology of what's behind it. How do you be successful? How do you make more money? Let's go find out. All right, hi everybody, it's Toby. Welcome to the big show, Straight Up with Toby Martini. And just for my production pal, Zach, I am Toby Martini. Because he tells me I say it too much. So I'm going to say it more. Yay! Hi, everybody. This show today is going to be about learning. I want to talk about learning. Sometimes I've mentioned in the past bits about some books I read, some theories that I really like. Today I'm going to do a little combination of things. Definitely, if you're a marketer, right? And even if you're not a marketer, if you have a business and you need to talk about your business, read Made to Stick by the Heath Brothers and read Contagious by, I think it's Jonah, but his last name's Berger. Either way, whatever it is, Berger. Good books. His is Contagious. And they're about how do you make a message that sticks in people's head. And then Contagious is about how do you make things that make people want to share them. And so that's good. That's valuable stuff, right? Because if you are trying to put yourself out there, you want people to remember it, and you also want them to share it, right? So we're going to talk about a takeoff from that, which is about learning. It's how your brain works. But then how can you use knowing how your brain works? How can you use that to create better marketing stuff? How can you get your messages remembered and shared better? Because learning, whether it's I'm going to go learn how to do a specific thing, there's that. But it's also when you share your message, you want people to learn about you, right? So you need them to remember it, encode it, put it in their memories so it pops up later. Before we do that, I do want to mention my sponsors because it doesn't happen without them. Score at pinellascounty.score.org. If you need any help with your business, call me, I'll help. But even better, maybe even better, call Score. They're free. Put you together with a mentor, counselor sort of person who can help you with any aspect of your business. Super cool, really valuable. There's workshops, like I said, one-on-one. They do email counseling or mentoring. Wherever you're at in a business, like I got an idea and one day I'd like to do it, or I've been in business 3 years and I've got this one piece that's not working. So check it out at pinellascounty.score.org. Or wherever you live, there's probably a Score, whatever they call them, I don't know what you call it, district, right? There's a Score community willing to help in pretty much any urban area. And that's, you can get Score until the main one at score.org. My other sponsor is New Urban Suites, super cool little office space down in Ybor. You call there, talk to Angela. She's super nice, real friendly. They have cool office. A lot of interesting businesses that are already there, but they do things like virtual secretary. I don't know if they call it that, but somebody will answer your phone, makes you look more professional, make you look a little bigger. So check that out, newurbansuites.com. All right, cool. So like I said, the thing is you want people to hear what you have to say in the first place. You want them to remember it, right? Encode it, keep it in their brain. For when it comes up that might be important for them to know. Or maybe, they'll either need your service and they'll remember you, or somebody they know will say, do you know anybody who insert occupation here? And then they'll go, oh yeah, I remember one, right? And this process, and I do this in my improv workshops. Yesterday I was feeling very proud of myself because in my improv workshop, I talk a little bit about this when you're trying to remember things. That's a piece of it, right? Having a better memory. And I was reading this book yesterday called Brain Rules, which is a really, really good book. It's by John Medina. And a lot of books, like the Heath Brothers book and the Berger book, are written by people who aren't necessarily scientists. They've went and they found studies that they thought were interesting, and then they cobbled it together and then say, here's what we think about that. John Medina's book, he's a neuroscientist. He's looked at people's brains. He's done a lot of these studies. So I think his book is a little more straight from the horse's mouth. And it's really good. But I was reading this thing. He was talking about great ways to help you remember things better. How to, when you learn something, how do you get it encoded in your head better for retrieval later? And it's exactly, right, 3 of the things were exactly the way I tell people to do it. I'm like, yay. Because I have read some science, but mostly my stuff comes anecdotally. I've realized if you do something this way, it seems to work better. And then I found some studies that kind of said that. But now, if I can get the brain science guys behind me who say, yes, that's absolutely so, then yay, I'm onto something. And I want to talk about that today. So I will help you figure out your brain to learn a little better, but also how do you then craft your message and get them out there to people. And see, I'm going to talk about maybe up to 5 things that are valuable for you learning and teaching. And a lot of people, just for you, before you tune out and go, well, I don't really teach anything, right? I sell a product or I sell something in a box. You should be teaching, right? I think today the world of marketing is teaching. Educate people about your industry, about your topic or what you have the cure for. Education is marketing these days. So don't tune out just because you go, oh, I'm a brick and mortar and I sell shoes. You still need to tell your story and you need to educate people. All right. So the first thing, and this is the only one I think that most people know and that certainly every marketing book and stuff tells you, is repetition. You need to repeat your message. If you have a jingle, you have a slogan, right? They do that on purpose. That's why they pay millions of dollars to be on the radio and on TV. So you hear the name. So you hear the name and you see the name again. You see the name again. Right? Coke spends millions and millions, maybe billions of dollars every year just so you hear the name and you see it again and see the red and the ribbon and the Mountain Dew people as well. Unofficially sponsored by Mountain Dew. Got it in there, Chris. They spend all that money so that one day in the middle of the day, you're hot and thirsty and you go, man, I want a drink. Oh yeah, Coke's in my head, right? And then you want it more. So that's the kind of the softball, kind of the easy one, kind of the most trucked about thing, which is repetition. The words I want to say that would be different about that is, so first of all, I am for having a tagline, maybe something you say. When I go networking, there's a few people who have a tagline where they say a part and the people who know them, who've been around them for a year or two, know the second part. So then it's a audience call response sort of thing, and that's fun. Walt Morey, who's a business coach, a friend of mine, he says, again, he's a business coach, and he says all his stuff about what he does, and at the end he says, in order to get to the top, you have to get off your bottom, right? And so when he does it at networking, he says, remember to get off your top, and then everybody else there says, you got to get off your bottom. So we're all, enrolled in pitching his stuff, and that's kind of cool. So I like taglines, especially when they're sharing a good benefit. Again, it's always the for who and what's the benefit of working with you. So those are good. But I do want to tell you, I'm not a big fan of, you won't be surprised, I'm not a big fan of having a scripted 30-second pitch, a perfectly word-for-word thing that you say all the time when people ask what you do. Because it sounds like a commercial, right? And people don't like commercials. They're boring. And if you say it by rote each time, then, it's kind of boring and people tune out. And if I'm talking to you like this and just being real genial and friendly and normal, and you go, what do you do? And I go, I'm the provider of high-quality services that are good for blah, blah, blah. Your voice changes when you go to a scripted thing. And it sounds fakey. And then people will kind of tune it out and miss it. That's what I think. Walt might say otherwise, and I get it. But I am a fan of have who you work for, right? Who you provide for, who you help in the world. Know that very clearly. And then, like I always say, what are the 3 benefits of working with you? And so people ask what you do. If they're the right person, you say you're for them. But you describe the right sort of an ideal person and a benefit or two. Pick which one seems most appropriate based on what you've already said. Kind of like that. Right, so I'm an improv person, but I am telling you to have a couple of high points. Not a fully written out script, but a couple of the high points that are really good that you would like people to know about your business. Not 3, well, I'm a big fan of 3s, but not 5 and 10, and you don't need to read it like a commercial. Have them in your backpack, and whichever ones seem most appropriate for this encounter, that's what you share. Again, not a packaged, whole, plastic-sounding thing, but you have arrows in your quiver or bullets for your gun or some other military sort of metaphor. But you just have things ready, and then just use the most appropriate ones then and string them together however you will. But repetition, repetition, repetition is what wins for getting something into people's head. And so that's why a tagline works or something like that. So that's a piece. I won't say tons about it because, like I said, most every book will tell you that. People need to hear your name 7 times before they'll buy anything. Kind of true, not really though, right? Because we've all in our days now gone to the internet and you just stumbled across something. You're like, oh, that's amazing. And you read it and you're like, oh, yeah, I'll buy that. Right? You have bought things on day one, on the first impression. It's happened. It's not the most common, but it does happen. Now, so we'll shift, right? Repetition, you can read all about that. Another one is emotion. You should figure out how to emotionally connect with people. If you sell something and you think it's dry or boring, or you're boring, or the people that you serve are boring or whatever, maybe I'm going to jump ahead on this one, but what's the story of somebody you helped and how you helped them that's emotional? I saw a great speaker years ago, and this was before I was interested in speaking, and it wasn't a speaker's event. It was some learning for a whole day, and one person, he came to teach a pretty straightforward thing. I think it was something about metrics, right? Keeping track of your numbers. But he started with a really great story of a girl who had been, like, her mom died, and she was homeless or close to homeless, and it was really emotional, and how he helped her, and then some other person adopted the girl, and then she grew up and was, stronger than anybody else. She was super smart, started businesses. I really felt it was a great story, super emotional. And then he mapped that out and said, this is my story of that girl. And 3,000 other kids per month live in Florida like that. Right? And then you go, oh, I learned something, If it had gone the other way without the emotion, if he just said 3,000 kids per year go homeless, you go, oh, wow, that's a bummer. Or you're not connected to it. There's no emotion there. If you stop and think about it, you're like, oh, yeah, I have kids, but that requires a lot of a customer or an associate to make them make that jump. But if you give them a very emotional story that they connect to right away, they go, oh my God, I really feel for that girl. And then you go, and there's so many more. And then you give a statistic. Then it really has an impact, right? I was just looking at a thing yesterday, how apparently the Asian marketing community has really gotten into these tearjerker commercials. And you probably just Google that, right? Asian tearjerker commercials. You'll see a bunch, and there's always these. I watched like 3 or 4 yesterday. And for some of them, you don't even have any idea what the thing is about until the very, very end, and you just get a splash screen of the company. But one was a little kid, maybe 8 or 10 years old, a little boy, and he stole something from a store. And the shopkeeper comes out, and she's screaming at him and, abusing him. And a shopkeeper, like a little cook guy from across the street, came over, saw what he had stolen, some medicine, saw the kid had stolen some medicine and said, oh, is that for your mom? And the kid said yes. And the shopkeeper, the guy, paid the money to the woman shopkeeper and also gave the little kid some soup, which is what he sold, and said, I hope your mom is okay. And the kid kind of looked at him and didn't even say thank you, but just ran away. And then the commercial goes on. And again, they pack a lot into a short commercial, but it was really shot well. Looks like a movie. And they cut to this shopkeeper who's a soup kitchen kind of guy, and he's cooking and doing stuff, and it's years later, 30 years later, and he's old, but he's still doing that same job, him and his daughter, and he collapses, and he goes to the hospital, and he's all tubed up and unconscious, and the daughter gets her bill, and it's like 7,500 baht, which I don't know how much money that is, but clearly it's more than she has because she's breaking down and crying and really sad and doesn't know what to do. And then it cuts to, she goes into the hospital to see her dad again the next day, and she looks at the bill. She gets a new letter with a bill, and it says that she owes $0, and she doesn't understand why at all. And then there's another note that's attached that said this debt was paid 30 years ago, and it's the little kid who's grown up, right? The guy gave him medicine and soup. His mom got better. This guy, the kid grew up to be a doctor. And just so happened, right, through the magic of movies, just so happened to be a doctor in the hospital where the guy was sick, and he knows him. And so he cured the guy. And it's a real tearjerker. And at the end, like, it's a commercial for insurance, right? So if you, just in case you don't have this friend who can save you, we'll protect you. But there's so many. There's a riot of these going on, a myriad of these going on, because they're really getting that tearjerker, that emotion, that getting you enrolled and getting you to see the pain of one person, and then you map it out to look who all this can affect. Look at either the damage that could be done or the good that could be done from one person, and they map it out to, and we help thousands. And so, kind of a long story there, I guess, but just to get like that emotional draw is really good. And I'll tell you, if you do Google that and watch it, some of them you watch, you go, it's a little melodramatic, it's a little sappy. I get it, right? Because we have a cultural difference, so you might not push it that hard. But it is the emotion that really does work for people. And so tell a story of somebody you helped and how sad they were before and how happy they are now, or in the pain they were in now and how happy and joyous that they can play with their kids now. Because the emotion is going to stick way more than any numbers are going to stick. You can say, our product is number 2 in the world, and we saved 10,000 people lower their blood pressure 2% and blah, blah, blah. People go, that sounds nice. But I helped a guy whose blood pressure was really high. He had to take this medicine and that medicine, and he was afraid to go on exciting rides and whatever. And now, because of this product he's been taking, it's lowered. He goes out and he plays with his grandkids, and he called me the other day crying about how happy he is. He feels like he's got a new life. And we go, oh, that's so awesome. I really like that. That product sounds great. Right? So it is that emotional content. If you can make that stick, if you can make that happen for people, they'll remember you, right? And it's simple, and I've said this a few times, but I used to do web work for coaches, especially. And I would, part of my talk about that was, look, I can make websites for anybody, but I really like working with coaches, people who their whole existence, their whole job is to help others. They just want to connect with people and help them, whatever it is, fix their relationship or make more money or stop biting their nails or whatever that, they coach people around. And look, if I can help them, if I can help one coach have a better site and more connected, more traffic, and they can help 100 people this year, then I've helped 101 people. And that makes me feel good. That means my web work, which could be boring and code, is actually fulfilling, and I feel like I'm contributing. And that's an emotional connection, right? People go, oh, I get that. It's not just you do work for those people. You like them. You love them. You get it, right? That's the idea, right? It's emotional. So consider that. Keep that in your mind, okay? And there's a piece of that you can use in the next one. And the next one is environment. And this one's not for everyone necessarily, but it's really, really powerful. And it looks like this. I'll start with the simple one. They have done studies that show if you study, for example, I'm going to learn some stuff in a particular environment, you do way better if you take the test in the same environment. So if you study and you're listening to loud music, when you take the test, if it's quiet, you won't do as well. But if there was loud music, you would do better. because it's the environment you learned the thing in. Your brain associates the environment with the stuff you learn. They did a funny exercise, which was they had people all in wetsuits. And they had people in wetsuits standing on the beach studying some stuff. And they had people studying the same exact stuff out in the water, 10 feet deep. And they would test them after. And then you would get tested the same place where you learned. So if you took your test and you were a beach person and you took your test on the beach, you did great. If you're a water person and you took your test in the water, you did great. They switched them. If you learned in the water and took a test on the beach, you did worse. If you were a beach person and you went into the water and took your test, you did worse. Your environment where you learned the thing has an effect on how much you remember. And so a piece of that could be if you're some sort of a trainer, a coach, a business consultant, that sort of thing, do your training at their place of work, where the people actually do their work. If I took somebody out, say I'm going to teach a leadership course or communications course for business folks, and I tell them, hey, come to a theater. We're going to do it there. Hey, come to, a warehouse and do that there. They're going to come. They're going to learn some stuff. They're going to go, oh, that's really valuable. But when they go back to their work, the environment is very different. And they won't forget all of it, but it's a little bit harder to remember all of it. And so corporate training, I know I get the idea you should pop out of the office to do it maybe, but you'll learn better there. It's also why if you're a college student, high school student, or you have kids like that and they're going to study, I totally get the draw. I want to listen to music while I study. The problem is when you go take a test, there won't be any music. It's going to be quiet. So you should study and learn in the quiet. I'm just telling you how your brain works. I'm just telling you how the science of it works. How can you make that happen better in your business? Right? How do you get people into an environment where it's conducive to them remembering it like that? And again, some businesses it makes more sense than others. Certainly, like as a speaker, a trainer, a coach, an author, anybody who's sharing knowledge, that's your business, is sharing knowledge. Do it where the people who learn your knowledge, where will they use it? Teach them it there so they're more likely to remember it and use it there. Okay? It's kind of fun. One of the things which I totally know this is true, I do it in my improv workshops and I don't do it on the show because I figured, I got time, I got to go fast. People, for those of you who have drifted away, please come back now. Human brains basically, on average, 90% of everybody needs a reset in about 10 minutes. Because no matter how interesting somebody is as they're talking to you, after about 10 minutes, it's too easy to start picking your fingernails, fiddling with your phone, doing something else. It's just too easy to. Your brain can only pay full attention about 10 minutes before it starts getting fatigued and then distracted, right? And so a 10-minute reset, and again, this depends on what your business is, but if you're making a sales presentation, for example, and everybody probably does some sort of sales presentation, if you're talking to somebody for half an hour or an hour, every 10 minutes you have to reset somehow. Make them think of something else. If you've been talking, show them some pictures. If they've been sitting, make them stand up. Whatever it is, but you need a little reset to go, I'm sorry, I was half distracted. And that brings them back. What's a good reset? Something emotional. Tell them a story, right? And it's not just a random something, although a random something still would have value. If we're talking blah, 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 and all of a sudden we changed the video feed and it showed a herd of elephants running across, you'd go, oh, wait, what? Was that elephants? And then your brain resets and you can watch for another 10 minutes. Chris is scrambling rapidly for elephants right now, I'm sure. No, we don't need elephants. Thanks, Chris. So a 10-minute reset, and it could be random, but in order to stay professional and be businesslike, tell a story that's emotional. It's just something that's a left turn, slightly different than what you have been doing. And like I said, I'm doing a bad job on a show like this. I just generally get up here and talk for 10 minutes. But we're going to have a new show, and it's going to go a little bit differently. I'll tell you about that in a minute. We're out of here in 5 or 4, something like that. All right. So think about that 10-minute reset. Whenever you do a sales presentation, whenever you're teaching anybody anything, especially you get people in a room to do some stuff. If they're sitting, every 10 minutes, get them to move around. If they've been standing, make them move differently. Get people, if they're low, get them energized. If they're already way energized, do something calming, right? Pull them back down. It's really valuable that you do that because people won't listen. And that's why this show used to be an hour and is now only half an hour. It's a big part of that. People won't listen to me yapping for an hour, right? No matter what I have to say. So 10-minute reset and try to work that in. Build it right into your schedule, how it works. All right. And last bit is sort of like the first one. You see this in training books. You might see this in marketing books and such too. But remember that people learn in different ways and they respond in different ways. So some people are more visual. Some people are more audio. Some people need to touch things. They need to work through it before it gets into their brain. Like some people read and learn better. Some people listen and learn better. Some people react better to images. Some people react better to the emotions, right? All of those things matter. So whenever you do any sort of presentation, make sure you try to change it up. Again, I'm doing a bad job on this show. Once in a while, we should show up a picture. Once in a while, we should take a 30-second break and play a little music or something just to reset your senses. If this was a live workshop, we do lots of stuff. I get you up and moving. We get jokes and we tell sad bits, right? There's a lot of variety. Chris, write this all down. We're gonna have to do all this for the show coming up, okay?
All right, right now.
All right, cool. So there's that stuff, and you can read more about that in lots of different types of books, but certainly anything that talks about training, the way training works, they'll talk about visual, audio, kinesthetic, right? Just the way that people learn differently. But you need a 10-minute reset. Use one of these, right? For this sort of a radio show or internet video, if somebody's just listening, get them to visualize something, or get them to move. Ask them to. If you're writing a book, you have a pamphlet, you have something, they're reading, make sure you do things that are very evocative, multisensory. Talk about food, describe the smell, describe how it feels and what it looks like. Get a little 10-minute recess to reset like that. Okay, so that's the kind of a survey, kind of the overview of this stuff. This is how people, well, it's not how people learn, but these are ways to help learning. They facilitate learning, help learning happen better. Repetition, and what I say, not a script necessarily, but your high points, and maybe at least one thing that you say all the time. Use emotion. Make your point with one story that's very emotional, and then extrapolate out to the hundreds that affects, or the thousands, or the millions that is affected. But if you tell me something about millions, I can't see it in my head. Tell me a story of one person. I can see it, I get it, I flow, I vibe, I totally get what you did with that person. So great. And we do that for hundreds a day or hundreds a month or whatever. And then environment really matters. Where you study, what goes on around you when you study, that same set of circumstances, that same sort of environment should be where you get tested. Right? If you're going to teach somebody something, teach them where they're going to use it. If you're going to teach me how do I fix an engine, right? Teach me in my driveway, not in a classroom. Teach, if you're going to have classes teaching people how to work on cars, then the setup should be like a garage, not a classroom. And then do remember, 10-minute reset. And you can use one of these things, but it's the various ways people learn. Visual, audio, kinesthetic, by reading, by images, by emotion. Okay, so that's the beauty of it. I hope that's valuable. I mean, I know it's valuable. You have to use it, right? And if you have any questions, you can always reach me, Toby at tobymartini.com. I do want to mention two things, maybe more. But one of them is I have a Wing It and Win workshop, my 4-week workshop, starting in Tampa, May 10th. That's a Saturday, 10 to 1. You can see that on my website, tobymartini.com/workshop if you want to get exact, but you'll find it however you get there. It's ridiculously fun. It's such a great workshop, and you learn creativity. You learn to be bold in any situation. You learn how to talk to anybody at any time. It will definitely help you with your communication skills, like that. I like it. I think it's fun. I can give you 100 people's names who will attest that it's lovely. And then I've been teasing out this show for a long time. It's actually finally happening. The new show that we're doing here. So this show's changing its format in 2 weeks on May 1st. We're considering starting on the 24th or whatever that is, but I just thought it sounded funny to start on May Day. So May 1st is Thursday at 3 o'clock, and we're going to do a business analysis of this show. I'm going to have my guest Ken Queen come back, and we're going to do the show where we look at one of my businesses. We tear it apart and say, here's what's good, here's what's bad. Here's ways to fix it, or here's ways to make it better. And that's great for me. Yay, my business will do better. It's good because you'll get to see Ken, how he works. You can see that he's smart, and you say, oh, I kind of like the way he is. Maybe you need somebody to look at your business, so that's valuable for him. But it's valuable to you as a listener who runs a business. You can look at my business and go, oh, my product is different, my service is different, but yeah, I should do that in my marketing. Or yes, I should do this in my accounting. Yes, I should do this in my customer retention. So things that I do in my business, the same stuff you have to do in your business. And you get to peek underneath, right? We all like to see, what do other people do? How does that really work over there for them? So a little vulnerable, a little transparent for me. We'll see how that works. So we'll do that for as long as it's interesting and valuable to people. And so check in at this station, talkwadstudios.com, right? I lost my mind for a second. talkwadstudios.com, starting on May 1st at 3 o'clock. And tell your friends, if you know anybody who's in business or wants to be, I think this will be helpful and valuable. It's kind of like one of those restaurant rescue sort of shows, right? They come in, they go, oh, I see what you do. You do this well, you do this badly, fix this, and you'll make millions. Okay, let's hope that works out. So we're going to kick out here for the day. It's been lovely. If it's interesting to you, you want to talk about any of this stuff, you can contact me, like I said, Toby at tobymartini.com. If you want to check out workshops, tobymartini.com. This has been Straight Up with Toby Martini. Chris, will you make a note to tell Zach that I said my name at least 15 times in this show today? Thank you. All right, we're going to kick out. We'll see you next week, and definitely in 2 weeks from now. All right, bye. This has been Straight Up with Toby Martini. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you want to find out more about what I'm up to, you can always find me at tobymartini.com. We'll see you next week.
This program was brought to you by the Internet Broadcasting Organization, setting the standard for new media broadcasting.